Good morning, and welcome to First Jefferson Unitarian Universalist Church in Fort Worth, Texas. My name is Annie Foerster, and I'm minister to this congregation. We are 3 days into the year 2021, a reckoning for keeping track of what's going on, a number that promises many things: change, new beginnings, starting over. And that's what we're here to talk about this morning. But let's begin with music, as we usually do. We've been relying on the music of our pianist, Misha Beresnev, to begin our services, but we have a surprise for you this morning. Our choir is going to sing for the first time in months.
Break forth, O glorious heavenly light, and usher in the morning. O shepherds, shrink not with affright, but hear the angels' warning. This child infancy, our confidence and joy shall be the power of King. On his eternal
And our thanks to Misha for playing for us.
The magic of technology and hard work. My call to worship this morning was written by Sylvia Howe. She said, "We bid you welcome on this first Sunday of the new year. Like Janus, we gather with part of us looking backward and part of us looking forward. We gather on the edge of the new year, saddened by our losses, cherishing our joys, aware of our failures, mindful of days gone by. We gather on the cusp of this new year, eager to begin anew, hopeful for what lies ahead, promising to make changes, anticipating tomorrows and tomorrows. We invite you to join our celebration of life, knowing that life includes good and bad, endings and beginnings. We bid you welcome." Our hymn leader this morning is David Bindi, and our opening hymn is number 350, "The Ceaseless Flow of Endless Time." Please join us.
The ceaseless flow of endless time, no one can check or stay. We'll view the past with no regret, nor future with dismay. The present slips into the past, the dream like melts away. The breaking of tomorrow's dawn begins anew today. The past and future ever meet in the eternal now, to make each day a thing complete shall be our New Year vow.
We will light our chalice this morning, the first time in the year called 2021. Our memories of past years are recalled by similar numbers, but sometimes by names as well. This past year will quite probably be known as the year of the pandemic, though it began in 2019 and continues yet. Our flame alternately and collectively signifies community, unity, and love. Our flame is a token of our constancy and our ability to change. Yet as we light this flame, our community is shattered, shuttered, and invisible. Our unity is a matter of faith, and our love flickers across great distances. And constancy? Nothing is the same as it was when we lit our chalice for the first time in the year called 2020. So let us light our chalice then for hope. Let us light our chalice for hope that we can start over. Hope that we will know what that means when it arrives, and we will know what to do when we return. And speaking of return, let's sing another hymn. It's number 1011 in your green hymnal, Return Again.
Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn.
Thank you, David and Misha. Our story for all ages this morning was originally written by a woman called Dallas. Just a minute, I've lost my page. I'll be with you in a moment. Okay, I've adapted it a little to tell the story because we don't have an audience today. And it goes like this. A boy named Simon was complaining to his sister Vicky one day. "It's the beginning of the new year," he said, "and you know what that means, don't you?" "I do," she said. "It means we have to clean out our closets and give away some of our clothes. Give away our favorite sweaters and get rid of our best t-shirts," Simon complained. Their mother had 3 rules. 1, get rid of anything that is worn out, faded, torn, or stained. 2, get rid of anything that doesn't fit you anymore. And 3, get rid of anything you haven't worn since last winter. "But that includes some of my favorite things," Simon and Vicky complained every year. And every year their mother was unrelenting. This year was no different. Same rules, same instructions. All that was left were a few stretchy things they could get into even though they'd grown, and some pieces they had received for Christmas that were still stiff and new and not even broken in yet. They would get to go shopping, of course, but they didn't like shopping. They didn't like change. They forgot that some of their favorite things were going into the giveaway basket that were also once new and unfamiliar. "Why do we have to do this?" they asked. And their mother said, "You are old enough to understand that things change," she said. "Let me tell you a story that might help you." And then she asked a question that had nothing to do with clothes. "Do you remember how long ago our church was started?" she asked. And they thought about it and said, "Long time. I think it was almost 65 years ago." "Right," said their mother. "Think about what those people had in their closets. Were their clothes similar to ours?" "Well, yeah, they had dresses and trousers, sweaters, shirts, and blouses. But the styles were very different. If they wore them today, we would simply call them old-fashioned. But that's not the only thing that changed. They changed as well." "Oh, you mean they got older," Simon suggested. You mean new people came, Vicky asked. Yes, but more. A different kind of change, said their mother. Those people who came here on Sundays, they heard sermons, they told stories, they read readings, they sang hymns, and they taught the children what they felt was important. But the things they believed, their religious ideas, are kind of like the clothes in our closets. As with our clothes, we need to look at our beliefs every so often and ask ourselves if they still fit. Perhaps they're too worn out to wear in public anymore. Or maybe there's something new they've been thinking about. Maybe there's something we borrowed from someone else but we never really used. We want our beliefs to reflect who we are on the inside, so we keep the ones that still fit, still work, and still have meaning for us when we wear them. Like our clothes, we want our beliefs to change a little with us as we grow and change, so that they always remain true to who we are. Well, Simon and Vicky thought about that. Simon remembered he once thought his teachers knew everything until one day his teacher said, "I don't know. I'll look it up and get back to you." And Vicky remembered that once she thought her mother and father had been born old until their grandmother had shown her their father's baby pictures. And they both remembered stories they'd heard in church about different ways people believed in churches with different names, and how they understood now what some of the kids at school were talking about. Change is sometimes hard, their mother sympathized, but in the long run, it can't be held back, and there's always something to look forward to. Simon and Vicky took their old clothes, the ones that no longer fit them or suited them, and put them in the giveaway box. Then they went to their rooms and thought about the changes they had made in their lives over the past year. So what's in your closet? Well, today we're going to celebrate Chalaka for the very first time as a congregation. And let me explain. Chalaka is a Unitarian Universalist holiday. It first emerged in about 2005 out of a wish to have a holiday celebrating Unitarian Universalist values. Some UUs celebrate Chalaka during the first week in December, focusing on one of the 7 UU principles every day of the week. And some celebrate Chalaka starting the first Sunday in January and focusing on a different principle each week. And that's what we're going to do this year. Next year, if we choose to do this again, we might look at our worship closet and decide to choose the December celebration. So let me tell you a little bit about Chalaka. You can celebrate Chalaka at home or at church, and this is how it's done. Every day of the celebration, you light a candle, like this one, and you choose one of the 7 principles and think about it. Say why you like it, perhaps why you don't, if it gives you problems. Now, I'm going to start off this week, but next week other people will be participating with me. One principle at a time, each time that I'm in the pulpit. If you would like to be a part of the Chalaka celebration, let me know. The first 4 principles are already spoken for, but 5, 6, and 7 are open for your interpretation. We might even discuss principle number 8, which has been proposed, but not yet voted into the public closet, into the principle closet yet. So happy Chalaka. Our first principle, let me light the candle first. Our first principle is that we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. It's easy to affirm and support this one because I know I want that kind of respect, and I assume that everyone else does too. But it's sometimes difficult to put into practice. When someone else acts viciously or illegally, it's difficult not to be angry with them, not to see their inherent worth. And when someone acts foolishly, they seem to strip themselves of dignity. When I'm driving, for instance, and a car comes zooming at me and way over the speed limit, weaving in and out of traffic jeopardizing everyone's safety, it's easy to dismiss them with disdain and harsh language they'll never hear because the car windows are closed. When you hear on the news that someone has blown up a building or shot someone for a difference of opinion, it's easy to think revengeful thoughts. Well, about 20 years ago, it occurred to me that I wasn't really practicing our first principle, not consistently anyway, and I decided to make a change. I decided to make compassion my new spiritual discipline. When I find myself looking at someone with disgust or feeling fear or extending dislike or disdain toward them, I say these words to myself: I don't know the whole story. I don't know what makes this person behave this way. I try to think of how they might have come to be as they are. I try to keep disgust, fear, and hatred out of my brain, out of my heart, out of my language. In the 20 years since I've begun the discipline, it hasn't gotten much easier. I sometimes fail completely, and my struggle for compassion doesn't change the bad behavior or the person who displays it. But it has changed me. It helps me to understand that we are all broken people, damaged by circumstances that have come into our lives, not always perfect. The term hard-hearted is an apt one. Trying to live up to our first principle with compassion makes my heart softer. So we'll burn this candle for our first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Happy Chalaka. Let's get back to our usual order of service. My topic this morning is based on New Year's traditions, including starting over. My questions for you to consider are these. Can we really ever start over? Can we begin again? Can we clean out our spiritual closets when what's in them no longer serves us? And how shall we dress when we are together again? My first response to my questions is this. But before I talk about beginnings, about starting over, I want to talk to you about time. You understand it isn't real, don't you? You understand it's a human invention that not everyone believes in, as not everyone believes in Santa Claus or God. Yet most of us are obsessed with time. We talk about beginning a new day when we mean we have slept during the dark part of our existence on earth and wakened when or just before the sun appears in the sky again. We call this month the beginning of a new year when we mean we have purchased or downloaded new calendars and put a new number on our checks and journal pages. It isn't even a universal calendar. It has been changed over the history of human life, and once this so-called New Year began in the spring, yet we attach great meaning to it, great hopes of changing ourselves for the better, cleaning out our houses, cleaning our closets, cleaning out our failures and replacing them with hopes. Why, we invented clocks to help us control time. First, they were estimations of the sun's placement in the sky, casting shadows. Then they were sand running through a glass tube, or pendulums swinging back and forth, gears clicking into place, electronic numbers flashing on a screen, atoms pacing out our fantasies. We fell in love with our clocks. When we feel hungry, we look at our watches to see if it's time to eat. When we feel tired, we forget what we did that made us so and question whether we should retire so early, or we wonder if we can stay awake to accomplish just a little bit more. Einstein, you'll remember, had a theory about time. No, actually, Einstein had several theories about time. His favorite was about the relativity of time, how we experience it when we are joyfully employed as compared to when we are waiting for it to pass. In a delightful small novel, Alan Lightman looks at these theories in a book he called Einstein's Dreams. And in chapter 4, he wrote this: "In this world, there are two times. There is mechanical time and there is body time. The first is as rigid and metallic as a massive pendulum of iron that swings back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The second squirms and wriggles like a bluefish in a bay. The first is unyielding, predetermined. The second makes up the mind as it goes along. Most modern people, I think, rely on mechanical time, but there are a few people or a few circumstances where body time prevails. Of these, Lightman says, such people laugh at the thought of mechanical time. They know that time moves in fits and starts. They know that time struggles forward with a weight on its back when they are rushing an injured child to the hospital or bearing the gaze of a neighbor wronged. And they know, too, that time darts across the field of vision when they are eating well with friends or receiving praise or lying in the arms of a secret lover. He concludes this chapter thusly: where the two times meet, desperation. Where the two times go their separate ways, contentment. For miraculously, he said, a barrister, a nurse, a baker can make a world in either time, but not in both times. And each time is true, but the truths are different. So how can we even think about starting over, about new beginnings, when we know time is manageable in our minds but fluid in our bodies? As I said, time is a myth. Or as songwriter Roger Miller once said, every day is Saturday to a dog. No, I think I'm going to have to plow a different field on these questions. But first, let me share with you my generosity report. I want to thank the people for their generosity in giving to the Minister's Discretionary Fund this winter. I think we can get through the coming days together, even as they become more difficult for many. I love the way we support each other when we can and accept the community's help when we are in less desirable circumstances. Blessings on your generosity, and I invite you to enjoy it if you have needs in these hard times. Let me share with you a reading by Marnie Harmony. She wrote, "We whose journeys are always beginning, we whose mission always awaits us, we whose visions are bent on loving, we gather together here. We gather as a community drawn together out of common need, each toting our own carpet bag of treasures and dreams. We gather together seeking meaning, yearning to understand life in all of its dimensions as it challenges and expands, as it burdens, as it consoles and heals. We gather together with questions, the kind of questions that provoke us to the path of action. And we gather with hope, the kind of hope that pulses on through uncertainty. We gather with tenderness, the kind of tenderness that can only be born from knowing human capabilities as well as human imperfections. We gather wanting certainty and having none, but we are wakeful to possibilities as we seek discernment and gentle judgment. We gather then unbounded, but close. We gather thirsting. We gather drawn to our source, to our Creator. And we are together again, even as we are apart. So let us sing the song in our hymn book called "Break Not the Circle." It's number 323, but the words will be on your screen.
Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not that circle, make it wider still, till it includes, embraces all the living. Come wander at this love that comes comes to life, where words of freedom are with humor spoken, and people keep no score of wrong or guilt, but will that human bonds remain unbroken? Join then the movement of the love that frees, till people of whatever race or nation will truly be themselves, stand on their feet, see eye to eye with laughter and elation.
Thank you, David and Misha. It's time for my second response. On the day that I was to compose this service, I began my day, my new day, writing in my journal as I do every morning. I wrote about disappointments in myself. I wrote about an error made by someone else which I couldn't find the energy to give blame to. I wrote these words: I am so worn down by this lockdown that I can't blame anyone for any failure at this time. I can't wait for reality to become a memory so that we can examine it without the pain. Now there is a recipe for starting over. Wait it out. Wait until today becomes yesterday. Wait until what now exists becomes a memory and we can deal with it. Memories so much more manageable than time or reality itself. I have a brother and a sister, both younger than I, and when we get together now on Zoom instead of in person, eventually one of us will say, "Remember the time that you did such and such?" And the other two don't remember, or they remember differently. We each tell the story of that memory as if it were a different setting, a different set of characters even. The day my brother threw a full glass of water at me, I remember that he was angry at something Mother wouldn't let him do, and he took it out on me. But he remembers that I was teasing him, and he found a way to shut me up. Our sister remembers that she didn't want to get in the middle of whatever was happening, and she ran outside and missed the whole thing. And then we all laugh and sigh because memories are so much more pleasant than reality and so much less cumbersome if we store them so that we can look at them and smile. Do you remember the last time we as a congregation got together? Do you even remember the date, what we were doing, what we were planning to do? It was March 8th, 2020. I wasn't in the pulpit that Sunday, but my journal record of the week before, my better memory, indicated we had taken in 6 new members in the last 2 weeks. I was rejoicing that what we were doing to achieve our goals was apparently working. There was nothing on the horizon in my journal that hinted of any storm brewing. But on the 14th, a Saturday, I recorded this. The board president came to church at 10 to send out messages to everyone about the board meeting, that they could attend by telephone if they wanted to. We agreed we would deal with the virus stuff and leave policies and non-essential things until next month. It's funny how important gets moved to non-essential when there is critical in the mix. My recorded memory went on to say that Guy and Patrick had spent all day Saturday setting up recording equipment we could use to stream Sunday service on Facebook because we had told people to stay home until this virus was over. A webcam borrowed from one of Guy's children, long extension cords coiled by the side of the sanctuary. Later entries in my journal told how that first streaming failed and we learned to record first and stream later, because Facebook was threatening to crash with all the people doing the same. One entry said we were shocked that we had heard on the news that night that it might not be over until mid-May. 8 weeks of no church, we cried. Impossible. See how quaint these early memories are? How we can laugh at our naivete? Imagine what it will be like to remember heading into this new year a year from now. I'm giddy with the anticipation of it. How do you remember the past 10 months? I can't wait, I wrote in my recent journal, but waiting is what I have to do, what we all have to do. We don't have a choice. That's what makes it so difficult, isn't it? We come face to face with another myth we cherish, that we are in control of our lives, that we have choices. Oh, I mean we do, but they are related to smaller things. What shall I have for breakfast? What shall I do at the time that hangs heavy on my hands? Where do I find hope? Right now I find it in happier memories as I wait for this reality to become an end, to become a memory I can deal with. Every Sunday we share with one another a communion of names and milestones. And today is no exception, and I have 2 stories to share with you today. Many of you remember the Reverend Marjorie Montgomery, Minister Emerita, First Jefferson Unitarian Universalist Church. Well, we're sad to announce that Marjorie's daughter, Valerie Tunink, died in her sleep on Friday, December 18th. Valerie's brother, Philip Sams, wrote she was happy about her daughter Natalie's recent graduation with an MBA from the University of Dallas and enjoying her daughter Jessica's early wedding planning. No known medical issue predicted this beyond her sedentary habits. Family members are with Marjorie now and ask that we do not call, but cards and letters would be welcome. A second story is also sad. Virginia Thornton's brother Nathan Chapman died last week, suddenly and unexpectedly. The family had spent 2 happy days together celebrating Christmas, and then they learned from a neighbor that an ambulance had arrived and taken him to the hospital. He was Eliza and Brett's favorite uncle, a close brother-in-law to Guy Thornton, and a beloved nephew to Paul and Christine Chapman. He will be missed. Let us take a moment to consider the stories that live in this beloved community. Often we just close our eyes and share a moment of silence. Today I'd like to share with you a guided meditation called First Comes the Waiting. So settle in, close your eyes if you wish, and listen just to my voice. This is the season of endings and beginnings, when the small signs of dawn pierce through the night and something new is born. First comes the waiting. First comes the lessons of endings and beginnings, the presence of life, the sheltering spirit of love, grieves with those sweeping up the debris of loss, waits for those who restlessly reach out for change, grants us courage in the night to guard each other's dreams for this holy, wondrous universe. Grant us, O universe, unfolding in mystery, a sense of your timing. May we loosen our grip on that which doesn't serve us, leaving behind that which we have outworn and outgrown. Teach us the lessons of beginnings. Remind us that such waitings and endings may be a starting place, a planting of seeds which bring to birth what is ready to be born, something right and just and different, a new song, a deeper relationship, a fuller love in the fullness of time. You may keep meditating as Misha plays a musical interlude for us. May we cherish all the stories in this community, even those that aren't spoken aloud, but live in the hearts of this community. First comes the waiting. First comes the lessons of endings and beginnings. May we loosen our grip on that which doesn't serve us, leaving behind that which we have outworn and outgrown. We're back to our closets again, with closets filled with concern, with anguish, with sadness, fear, and hope. With a different metaphor, a planting of seeds which will bring to birth that which is ready to be born. January holds a new beginning in the life of the church. It is when our new board, which recently elected new members, has its first meeting. It is when I, as a minister, present my goals for the year we will call 2021. I'm working on those goals now. I will not present them at the board retreat this afternoon, where the new board learns how to work together. I will save them for the meeting on the 17th. Then, after I present them to the board, I will share them with the congregation. The board will make its own goals, accepting mine and supporting them, but making theirs more specific, a process called cascading goals. Then the committees will meet and set their goals, examining how they met last year's, or not, because the pandemic intervened. I will spend the next 2 weeks polishing the wording of my goals, but their intent will be the same, and I can give you a hint of what is to come. No, what I hope is to come. Here's a peek at what I'm looking at now. To explore how we will come back together safely and develop a plan in conjunction with board and committees. What will be required of us when this is over? What will over look like? My second goal will be something like develop a new normal. Things will have changed. We will have changed. We don't know what the future will look like. My guess is we'll be making it up as we go along. I have some ideas, but right now they are no more than predictions. It might indeed feel like starting over. And finally, my third goal is to find the best way to return to last year's goals regarding increasing membership and improving financial stability. But we have to have a way to feel comfortable, possibly save a tradition with a hole in the elbow, even as we try on a new shirt in a style unfamiliar to us. You see, we are still us. We are still ourselves. Just as we have grown from babies to adults, we have grown from people innocent of pandemics to ones with too much knowledge. And this community maintains its identity, a house of hope, a house of love, a house of peace. In the time ahead, whether you measure with your mind or your body, how will you make this transition? I will do it as I always do, by making goals, making plans, making room by getting rid of what isn't working. I will look at my watch and try always to be on time, because even knowing it is a myth we invented ourselves, it is a comfortable way for me to live. And I will try to remember that when I wake up, it isn't really a new day. It's just a moment when we are about to face the sun again. And I will try to remember that this isn't really a new year. It's just a moment when we will promise to hang on a while longer until it seems new. And I will dream, because that's what dreams are for, getting us through the night, getting us from difficult reality to fond memory. So dream with me, my friends. And when we waken to a world without living nightmares, or fewer living nightmares, we will tell our dreams to one another and turn the page to a new chapter of our lives. Until then, let this be a house of peace. That's our final hymn, number 1054 in the Green Book.
this be a house of peace, of nature and humanity, of sorrow and elation. Let this be our house, a haven for the healing, an open room for questions and our inspiration. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of freedom, guardians of our dignity and worth held deep inside us. Let this be our house, a platform for the free voice, where all our sacred differences here shall not abide us. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let all in this house seek truth, where scientists and mystics abide in reverence here. Let this be our house, a house of our creation, where works of art and melodies consecrate an atmosphere. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this is a house of prophecy. May vision for our children be our common theme. Let this be our house of myth and lore and legend, our trove of ancient story and cradle of all tender dreams. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace.
That sounds like a good goal for 2021, a good dream. Let this be a house of peace. We extinguished our chalice and our chalaka this morning. The chalaka was lit for our first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Our chalice means so many things to us, and as we extinguish the flame, we keep it in our hearts and our minds until we meet again. You may have noticed that we did not say our covenant together as we usually do on Sunday mornings. I saved it for the end. I saved it as a memory that has outlived time, that is with us whether or when we say it aloud. So say it with me now from your memory if you can. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve others in community to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. So may it be in all our lives. Misha.